Hello everybody, welcome to the video. Hopefully you're all having amazing creative days. So today I'm making a video about a camera I didn't think I was going to make another video about, and that is the Canon EOS R. And this camera surprisingly is still super popular 7 years after it was announced. Like it's end of 2024, about to be 2025. And this camera is, you know what? I did some thinking about it. I looked at the price on eBay. You can buy this thing used now for $850, and the bang for the buck, the value for money you get with this camera is absolutely insane. You get a professional caliber sensor in this camera capable of shooting like anything, like any kind of professional work other than sports. I mean, this thing is not good at anything that moves fast. So if you're shooting fast action sports or birds or something like that, this is not the camera for you. Probably not the camera for wildlife, but that represents such a small portion of the whole photography industry. If you shoot portraits, if you shoot landscapes, architecture, product, food, weddings, events, this thing can handle it. And like I said before, actually, you know what? Before I start like going crazy and just talking about this camera, let's break down all this information in my head into chapters and do this properly. Otherwise, I'm just gonna sit here and ramble. So let's talk about the EOS R in 2025. All right, so these are the topics we're gonna touch on in this video. First, we're gonna talk about popularity. We're gonna talk about the sensor. We're gonna talk about video, touch on that very quickly. I don't think people are buying this camera for video anymore. We're gonna talk about image quality and the slight green shift it has. We're gonna talk about the value for money you get out of this camera. We're gonna talk about no IBIS, no problem. We're gonna talk about the lack of a joystick. We're gonna talk about the autofocus. I'm gonna talk to you about firmware, and is it worth buying in 2025? So let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about the popularity of the EOS R. Like this camera, I'm pretty sure is selling like hotcakes all over eBay. It is a fantastic camera. It's almost like a unicorn camera in the sense that it's just fun to use. I have an R5 Mark II, I have an R5, I have an R7, I have an R. And if I'm going out to shoot something with family, going for a walk in the park, a little vacation, whatever the case may be, the first camera I grab is the EOS R. I don't know how to explain it. There's just something fun about it. It feels good in the hands. The ergonomics are slightly different than the R5 and the R7, and it just feels nicer in the hand, and it's so much fun to shoot with. So, I mean, not that that should be any kind of consideration, but I don't know. There's just something about it. All right, so now let's talk about the heart and soul of the EOS R, and that is the sensor. A lot of people don't know this, but the sensor in this camera came from the 5D Mark IV, which was a professional level camera. So Canon had like a two-tier system back in the DSLR days. You had the 1 series or 1D series, and then you had the 5D series, which was the like one level down. And the latest and greatest of those 5 series cameras was the 5D Mark IV. And when Canon created the EOS R, rather than creating a brand new sensor, they just took the sensor from that camera and put it in the EOS R. So you're getting a professional level sensor in this camera. And to be honest, after shooting with the R5 Mark II, the R5 and the EOS R, if you put the images side by side, I'll show you some examples here on the screen. Let's do R5 Mark II and R. So if you look at these images side by side, and these are straight out of camera, can you tell the difference? Like the EOS R's 30 megapixel sensor is almost indistinguishable from the 45 megapixel sensor out of the R5 Mark II. It is absolutely amazing. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like you're getting an incredible sensor in the EOS R, and at the price point you can get this camera, it's a no-brainer. If you're into photography and you want to build up your portfolio and get really good shots, like portraits, headshots, weddings, product shots, food photography shots, architectural, landscape, all that kind of stuff, you're getting a pro-level sensor in this camera at a price. Like right now, I checked on eBay and this thing's going for 850 bucks. So yeah. Okay, pro tip here, if you're buying the camera used, then obviously you're probably buying the camera used because I don't think you can find them brand new anywhere. But the shutter in the EOS R is rated for 200,000 shots. And on the RP, by comparison, it's only rated for 100,000 shots. So if you're considering the RP versus the R, I would go for the R simply because the shutter is rated for a longer lifespan. So yeah, if the shutter count is over 100,000 on the camera, try and haggle and get the price to come down a little bit. But ideally, if you can find one that's barely used and only 30,000 shots on it, that's a steal of a deal. That's pretty much a brand new camera with a professional sensor in there. But if it's got, let's say, 175,000 shots on it, you can try and bring down the price. See, the thing with the EOS R is like, I'm kind of skipping ahead here. I'm talking about value for money, but let's do it anyway. You can buy it for 850 bucks, right? And at 850 bucks, you can do 3, 4, 5 portrait sessions depending on your hourly rate, whatever you charge, and you can pay off that camera pretty fast. So let's say, you know, $200 a session, right? So that's 5 sessions and the camera's paid off, 5 portrait sessions. And that's pretty cheap, $200 for a portrait session. So anything over 5 sessions is all profit. So photo shoot or photo session 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is money in the bank. So you just bank that money and then save up and then invest that in a new camera or a new lens or something like that. So the point I'm trying to make is that the EOS R is very easy to pay off. So if you get it at a good price, shoot the heck out of it, make your portfolio shots, get your clients, build up your clients, get some paid gigs, pay off the camera, and then just keep rolling. And after that, it's all profit, all profit. And if the camera dies, so what? You paid it off, you go invest in another camera. All right, so let's talk about video. And a lot of people are gonna niggle on the video on the EOS R, and it's not the best, okay? But it's also not the worst, and it's very serviceable. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna film this section with the EOS R, so I'll probably have to do that tomorrow. Anyway, roll the footage from tomorrow. Hello everybody, welcome to tomorrow. So we're now filming with the EOS R in 4K 24p all-eye codec. We have a Nisi variable ND here to adjust our exposure, and I have a Tiffin Pro Mist 1/8 filter on here, which kind of softens the image a little bit because I find that the image out of the EOS R is just too crisp and too sharp. So I want to kind of tone it down a little bit. So the first thing I want to talk about is the 4K crop with the EOS R. Right now I'm filming with a 15:35 and we are all the way out at 15. And as you can see, this is definitely not 15mm because of the crop. So 15mm becomes about a 25mm on the EOS R. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's not a deal breaker. It gives you a little more range on your lenses, but if you want to get wide, you're going to have to get ultra wide lenses to get wide. Okay, so another thing too is with the 15:35, we're going to go into a little vlog mode here. You can vlog with this camera. It is wide enough to like handheld vlog, talk, get you, maybe another person in frame, that kind of thing. So you can vlog with the EOS R, although I'm shaking it right now and it does get a little bit shaky, but it's not too bad. The one thing you can do is, if you want to get rid of shake, is there's Digital Movie IS and Digital Movie IS Enhanced, which you can turn on, and that crops into your frame a little bit more. So if you want handheld footage of something, you can turn those settings on, and they're pretty good. Got a video about it there where I tested out with the EFS 10 to 18mm, which is probably the best vlogging lens for the EOS R if that's what you want to do. Now, another thing I want to touch on is the fact that the EOS R has all-eye codecs, which the other entry-level cameras don't. So if you're shooting with an R7, an R8, an R50, R100, they have 24p IPB, which is a more compressed, not as nice codec. It's I don't want to say not as nice, it's just more compressed. So if you want to play with it in post and stretch it this way, that way, color grade it, it's going to fall apart a lot faster than the bigger, beefier all-eye codec you can get with the EOS R. So yeah, you get that. Plus another advantage with the EOS R, if you're looking for video with this camera, is internally it shoots, I think, 420 8-bit, but if you get like a Ninja recorder, you can export, or through the HDMI, you can record out to a recorder and shoot at 10-bit 422 RAW, which is pretty amazing. So if you like, for 10-bit 422 RAW is like professional grade, high grade footage. So you can get really, really, really nice professional looking video out of the EOS R if you invest in a Ninja, which is, I don't think, a $900 investment. So, but I mean, if you're looking for the high-end professional video, you're probably a professional videographer. And at that point, you're probably looking at something like the Canon C80, not an EOS R. But the EOS R still can deliver some really beautiful video imagery. All right, so now let's talk about image quality. And like we already touched on this before, I mean, comparing the R5 Mark II to the EOS R, image quality is fantastic. Like it is, you know what's really crazy is the EOS R is still the second highest resolution in terms of megapixel camera in Canon's lineup. 7 years later, we have the R5, the R5C, the R5 Mark II. Those are 45 megapixel sensors. And then the R is a 30 and everything else is 24. Like really, Canon? Okay, but yeah, all right. And there's one more thing I want to talk about with the image quality, and that is that there's a slight green tint to the images that come out of the EOS R. Easily correctable in Lightroom, Capture One. You have your tint slider, green, pink. Just move it towards pink just a little bit. It corrects for the greens. But it's just something to keep in mind. If you're shooting, let's say, in a forest under green leaves, and there's a lot of sunshine shining through the leaves, everything's going to look extra green. If you're shooting on a beach where there's no green, it's just blue and sand, you're going to get a slight green tint. So just something to keep in mind, and it's easy to correct. So there you go. All right, best value for money camera in Canon's lineup. So here we have all the other cameras in Canon's lineup. And if we look at them, even something like an R8, which is a full frame sensor, has better autofocus tracking than the EOS R, but like it has a slow shutter speed, so even if you use it for fast action stuff like sports, I mean, it's probably better for bird photography and animal photography, but when it comes to portraits and landscapes, products and that kind of thing, when it comes to shooting things that don't move, the EOS R is more than capable of creating beautiful photos. And of course, you have that 5D Mark IV sensor in the EOS R, which makes it even better. So if we look at value for money, you're paying a lot less for the EOS R, and you're capable of shooting the same, if not more, in terms of like image quality and all that kind of stuff. So how could you not look at the EOS R and say it's the best value for money camera in Canon's lineup? It just, I mean, it is what it is. And I understand why Canon was so quick to discontinue it and like move on to other projects, because it's kind of like a really good camera in a really cheap body now. All right, so let's talk about one of the biggest flaws with the EOS R, and that is the single card slot. And I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, and I think that like Canon did it on purpose to force us to buy the newer cameras, which have 2 card slots, you know, so pros would have to upgrade. Anyway, I don't know if that's true or not, but just throwing it out there. So here's the thing. If you're shooting, let's say, portraits, you're shooting food, products, landscapes, those kinds of things, those kinds of shots are repeatable. So if something happens with the card, you get an error code or something like that, you can say, okay, you know what, I'm going to put in a new card. Let's take those portraits again. But if you're shooting non-repeatable events like weddings or concerts and a card fails, you're screwed, right? You can't just be like, hey, you know what? We're going to do that concert again, guys. Just start from song 1. We're just going to redo the whole thing. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's never going to happen, right? Not going to happen. So in those kinds of situations, you want 2 card slots so you have a bit of redundancy. You know, you get photos recorded to both card slots, so if one dies, you have a backup. I shot a lot of weddings with the EOS R. If you want to see a video about that, check out that video right over there. And one of the tricks to shooting with the EOS R is, rather than buying a big memory card and getting all your photos on one card, is buy a smaller card, like a 64 gig card, and buy a bunch of them. So set a timer on your phone or your watch or whatever, and every half an hour, just take out one card, put in the next card, take out one card, put in the next card. So every half hour, you're switching cards. So if, for whatever reason, if a card fails, you're just missing a little chunk of that wedding or a chunk of that concert, but not the whole thing. So that's a good little trick if you're shooting those kinds of things with the EOS R. And by the way, after owning this camera for 7 years, I've had absolutely 0 issues with memory cards or transferring or data or anything like that. It just works flawlessly. So, you know, take that for whatever it is. I mean, if you want to be super, I guess, safe, switch out your cards every half hour. If you're just kind of like happy-go-lucky, do whatever, then just put one card in there and hope for the best, right? And more often than not, actually 100% success rate with me. So I haven't had any issues with the camera. All right, so one of the other perceived flaws with the EOS R was lack of IBIS. It doesn't have IBIS, in-body image stabilization. Is that a big deal? Not really, I don't think so. Like when it comes to, let's say, video, you have digital movie enhanced and digital movie enhanced plus, or digital movie IS, digital movie IS enhanced. So that basically crops into your footage and stabilizes the footage in camera. Although, you know, there's better cameras for video nowadays. So we're not going to talk about video. Stick to photo. When it comes to photography, is IBIS even useful? I mean, in order for IBIS to work, you have to be still and your subject matter has to be still. If, you know, you're shooting a bird and it's moving around, IBIS isn't going to do anything for you. If the animal's jumping around, it's not going to do anything for you. The EOS R isn't really a camera for shooting animals or shooting birds anyway, so it's not really a fast action sports shooter. So you're not shooting sports, you're not shooting animals, you're not shooting birds, you're not shooting any of that stuff. So basically for food photography, portraits, weddings, events, landscapes, that kind of stuff, Do you need IBIS? Absolutely not. So is it a problem? Probably not. Like, I can't imagine, unless you really want to get like a 1 second handheld shot, but then, I mean, just use a tripod, right? Like, so no IBIS, no problem. All right, so another perceived issue with the EOS R was the fact that it didn't have a joystick. Is it a big deal? Not really. I mean, I do prefer having a joystick, but after like years of like conditioning my muscle memory to work without a joystick, I don't even, like on the R5 Mark II, I barely use the joystick because using the screen is so much more efficient than using the joystick. Although the joystick is handy, so I'm not gonna knock it, but I got 2 videos here if you wanna watch them. And it's all about, one is like how I set up the multifunction touch bar on the EOS R. I disabled a couple of the functions and then I set it up so it only, when I swipe, it only switches between eye tracking and spot focus. So let's say I'm shooting an event. If I want to track faces, I switch it to face tracking and I'm tracking the bride and the groom. And if I want to shoot an object like a wine glass or a ring or something like that, I swipe to the right and now I'm on spot focus. So that's pretty cool. And the other video is all about setting up tap to track on your EOS R. So you can actually use your thumb to move your focus point around instead of the joystick. And because the screen is way more responsive than the joystick, it's a lot faster too. So basically you have the camera up to your face and you're just touching the screen with your thumb. And there's a whole like menu set up for that too. So watch the video. And honestly, that's how I shoot now. Even with the R5 Mark II, I'm just moving my thumb around the screen and you can double tap the screen to tap to track. So if you want to track a specific object, while the camera is up to your eye, just double tap the screen where the focus point is and the camera will track that object. So that's pretty cool, right? So yeah, no joystick, no problem. All right, so now I have eye tracking enabled and we're tracking my face. We're gonna talk about autofocus here. And the thing with the camera is it's pretty good. I mean, it's not gonna track me if I'm running around and doing anything really fast in sports, but if you're doing talking head stuff, YouTube stuff, and there's people moving at normal speeds like I am right now, then the camera's gonna track just fine. And the interesting thing with the camera is if it can see my eye, there'll be a box around my eye. And if it doesn't recognize an eye or something, it'll put a box around my head. But even if there's a box around my head, it's gonna track the eye part of my head, which is pretty cool. And when it comes to lenses, RF lenses obviously work perfect with EOS R. If you're using older EF lenses, no problems whatsoever, like an EF 85 f1.2 where autofocus is super critical. I use that combination with wedding photography and it just tracks the eye and it's good, no problems. It's obviously not as fast as the RF lenses, but it's just like, what, half a millisecond slower or something. So in all intents and purposes, it really makes no difference. So autofocus is fine. I can't really speak on third-party EF lenses like Sigma Art Series or Tamron lenses. I assume they work. They might be a touch slower, but I definitely haven't used them, so I can't speak on it, but I guess you can do your research on Google to find out the rest. All right, so that's a little bit about autofocus. Okay, let's talk about firmware. So if you buy an EOS R, open up the menu and make sure you're in firmware 180. And if you're not, check out this video right over here. Yeah, I got all the videos on the EOS R, but yeah, check out that video. It's a little walkthrough on how to update the firmware. And the thing with the EOS R is when it first started shipping, the base firmware didn't have eye tracking. It had a lot of features and some bugs that were missing. So Canon did a great job updating this camera to what it is now, and it's a fantastic camera. So make sure your firmware is updated to 180. All right, time for the big question. Is the EOS R worth buying in 2025? And I say, absolutely, go for it. If you want to buy this camera, I think it's a steal of a deal. And here I've mounted the old EF 70-200 lens onto the front of the camera. And this is the old original 70-200 on here. And I can tell you from my experience shooting with R5 cameras like the R5, R5 Mark II, R5 Mark III, that this lens focuses just as fast and accurately with the R as it did with those DSLR cameras. And you also get the benefit of eye tracking. So yeah, here's the thing. You can buy the EOS R 850 bucks. You can buy an old 70-200. You can buy the old like 85mm f1.2 and you can put together a nice kit, like a professional level kit. Like the photos you can get with this camera and these lenses are pro level photos, like pro level photos. And you can assemble a kit for very little money. I don't want to say very little money, but a lot less than if you were to buy, let's say, an R5 with the new RF 70-200 and new RF 85 1.2, right? So you can set this up for a lot less and get similar quality and probably like the same quality. Like we saw image quality before between the R5 Mark II and the EOS R, and it's hard to distinguish the difference between the two cameras, right? So they're pretty close. So you can spend this much money on the new gear, or you can spend that much money on the old gear and start building a business with an EOS R. So is it worth buying in 2025? I definitely think so. All right, this video is over. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this informative, and if you did, leave a comment down below. Leave the video a thumbs up, would really appreciate it. If you have any questions about the EOS R, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. And if you want to check out stuff for yourself, definitely check out the blog. Have lots of EOS R content there as well. So is it worth buying in 2025? Absolutely. I give it a double thumbs up. And yeah, if you want to see more content, definitely subscribe to the channel. You know, I don't know if I'm going to be making more videos about the EOS R, but if there's something in specific that you want to know and I don't have a video about that topic, let me know and I'll make a video about it, because I think this is a fantastic camera, and it's still going to be a fantastic camera for many years to come, because photo technology really isn't evolving, it's not developing. But anyway, that's a story for another time. Peace out. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.